Here we are on the front of our Grand Design Influence. We're going to be doing a technical walkthrough like you would get with a technician on date of delivery or tutorial. So we're going to start on our unit. Your brand name may vary with some of these components, or you may want a deeper dive on diagnostics or some other tips and tricks along the way. You can find that in the playlist Haps Helpful Hacks on our Great American RV YouTube channel. Give us a like, subscribe, follow for more videos to come. Here on the front, we'll start with our 7-way plug. It's going to transfer all of our lights from our towing vehicle over to our camper. It's also going to have a battery charge line in it that'll pull off the alternator of the vehicle to help charge that battery while you're traveling down the road. Lastly, we're going to have our brake control wire pass through here too. It'll pull off of that brake control of that towing vehicle to initiate the brakes on our trailer whenever we hit the pedal. Also, to do with our brakes, we'll have our breakaway line. There's a little loop right here. It needs to be connected somewhere on the truck, not the actual fifth wheel hitch itself, because if that hitch or anything like that fails, of course it's more likely going to go with the trailer. What we want this cable to do is stay with the truck, pull that pin out of the box, initiate our brakes, bring our unit to a safe stop. But that can only happen if we have a good 12 volts in our unit, meaning our batteries are in good condition. Otherwise, we're not going to have power once it separates from our truck to initiate that system. We also want to make sure that pin is firmly in that box and inserted properly. That way our emergency brakes aren't active while we're pulling down the road. We do have front cab lights right here over our kingpin as well as our front cap. Those switches are right next to our fifth wheel bay door there on the left. All right, so in our front compartment, we have multiple things in here. We have our battery storage right here at the bottom to the right of me. We have our generator prep, that firebox already there. We can see down here at the bottom area, that silver box right there is where our wiring, our pre-wiring is for our generator. If we want to go ahead and add that generator in there, the pre-wiring that would go to our transfer switch is right there. We can see here, this is our battery disconnect, the simple on-off switch right there. Most of your 12 volt stuff is going to go into there. We have thermal resettable 12 volt fuses in there that will reset on their own after they cool down if they are tripped. And we turn that battery disconnect off when we are storing our unit so we can conserve our battery power on our unit when we go back out to pick it up. Now, anytime you're plugged in, whether you're using your unit or you are storing your unit plugged in, we want that battery disconnect on. That way our converter up here, which is essentially a battery charger, will actually be charging our batteries on our system. When we disconnect that, it literally disconnects our entire unit from our 12 volt system. So we want to make sure that's on so that system will be charging. We'll see our inverter prep up here, that wiring, that 110 Romex right there is there. If you want to upgrade to that inverter, which will change 12 volts to 110, so we can go ahead and use some of our 110 appliances whenever we are dry camping and we don't have a power pole source. We'll notice here we have our solar system set up right here, our solar disconnect. Now that's going to be completely different from our regular battery disconnect. This disconnects our solar from our battery system. We are prepped with solar panels up top, and we also have our controller right here that is operating that system, converting that solar power into charging power for our unit. Basically turning that solar off disables that system. We're going to see a couple of 12 volt breakers throughout our unit that in the event they are reset, they would have this position out like this. We can go in and just reset them. You're also going to have your LCI leveling system and your Swintech slide main controller right here in the back. This is for your leveling system. Nothing you need to be concerned about besides knowing where the location is right now. In our very first storage compartment right here, we're going to notice one propane tank. We'll have the same exact thing in the other side. Propane tank, and then also one of our electric jacks right here for our leveling system. First, we're going to talk about our propane system. We have dual tanks. You'll have a dual propane regulator just inside there with a selector switch. You have both propane tanks on. You use that selector switch to choose which one you want to be your primary. When that primary runs dry, it'll automatically swap over to that secondary tank, and it will begin pulling from that without losing any service in your propane. Now, the indicator on your regulator will show red, letting you know that tank that is currently selected is empty. You can swap it over to the other one and have that one refilled. Now, you have your individual leveling jack right there. Once again, you're going to have that on both sides, and you're also going to have it in the rear. But it's not going to be a tall one, it'll be one mounted on the frame. On the bottom of that motor right there, there is a little black cap you can remove. You want to disconnect your 12-volt system, remove that black cap. You can put a 3/8 drive socket on a drill and manually run that jack up and down in the event there is a failure for that system. Same thing on all of the jacks. Main thing is remember to disconnect that 12 volts before you do it. Now when we open this door, we have our electronic leveling system right here. We'll go over the operation of that, and then we'll also touch on our control panel right here. Here we have our LCI electronic leveling system. This is for our leveling jacks on our unit. Kick it on, and right there on the screen we have our voltage. Voltage is very important on this system. If we don't have a good 12 volts, good battery, this system may not operate correctly. So keep that in mind if you have any faults or issues with the system or errors. Right off the back, when you enter this screen, you can manually go in and start operating your jacks. So when you kick it up and you want to operate just those front leveling jacks, you can just hold that button down. Orange indicator will indicate those are the jacks that are operating. You can also operate them left and right, and same thing if you retract, hold down that retract button and you can hold down the front button and it will drop down. That's only jacks that mode will operate. Right here we'll go into our arrows. This will be what gets you a little bit further. So auto hitch height is after you have auto leveled your unit. So let's say you disconnected from your truck, you went into auto level and you were done camping. You're going to hit that arrow, go into auto hitch height, press enter, and your unit is going to return to the same position you were in whenever you disconnected your truck or pretty close to it. So you can back right up to it and your hitch should line right up. Our next mode is our auto retract all. After we have hooked that hitch up, we're locked in and we're sure that that hitch has the kingpin and we're not going to cause that thing to come off or anything like that. We've checked everything. We can go ahead and hit enter, and this will retract all of our jacks on our unit to where we are ready to head to our next destination. Next mode is auto retract rear. This is only going to bring up the rear jacks and leave your front landing gears down. Our next mode is our manual level mode. So if we want to manually level our unit ourselves, we can hit enter, go into this manual mode, and it's going to tell us where our degree marks are as far as how off level we are. So this will change as you level your unit. Now you have control of all of your jacks, your front and your rear, and then you can adjust it left and right. And like I said, you can see those degree marks kind of change as you level out the unit. Once again, if we have gone too far, we need to retract a little bit. We hold down that retract button until it lights up, and then we can operate whatever ones we wish. Now, one thing that you'll notice is if we kick this unit off level, we can notice we now have a flashing light right here. This indicates that the front is low. So if we're doing that manual mode, it just makes it a little bit easier. We go ahead and hold that button down. We can also notice our degree mark is climbing right there. And obviously we've hit 0 here. Now we have an indicator that is green. That's letting us know that the unit is level. Same thing on the outsides here. We have more red lights that will indicate if those angles are unlevel. If we hit it one more time after that manual mode, that brings us to our regular ready screen. The other option is we disconnect from our truck and we go straight into auto level. We just hold that button down and then it's going to go through auto leveling your unit. It's important we don't walk around in our unit during that period. We let it go ahead and level out until it says complete, or you may see this screen right here should have a green light in the middle. If you have any errors, then you'll have to assess that through the troubleshooting. LCI has great literature on what to do. We also have some other videos that go through some steps on that as well. Also want to add with our leveling system, we want to make sure we have at least 6 holes showing on these landing gears. Otherwise, you're going to run out of stroke on these jacks in order to level your unit. So make sure we're using at least 6 holes. We can see them, count them on there, and you won't run into any errors as far as trying to level your system in regards to that. All right, our control center, we can see we have our hot and cold for our spray port right here with the disconnect. That blue coiled hose we can take in and out. We also have our satellite and our cable and our auxiliary and the locations of where those coaxes go as far as if we want to separate our satellite signals for different receivers. Our cable will run to every TV. We do have on some units the outside TV coax right there off to the right and a GFCI protected outlet right here as well. Our combination right here of valves, this is to initiate our different ways that our water would go into our system. So we'll start with city water, which is your most common hookup. You would go to this connection right here. You would hook water up to your city water connection right here, turn the water line on, and then that would supply directly to all of your fixtures. Your dry camping, in order to use your dry camping, we would do power fill tank first. So that would be in this sequence right here. We hook up to our city water connection, we turn that water on. That's going to begin to fill up our freshwater tank, which is onboard storage on our unit. In the event we go somewhere where there isn't going to be water, we use it while we are driving at rest areas, so on and so forth. So we fill that tank up, and then whenever we want to actually use it, we're going to turn to our dry camping situation right here, which is going to pull that water from that tank. In order to do that, we would turn on our 12-volt water pump right there. That would initiate that pump system and bring water out of that tank to our fixtures. The two over here, winterization, which would be this combination right here. This is if we want to winterize our unit, put antifreeze in there, we would use that. Same thing, we would go ahead and hook a water hose up to our city water connection, run the other end into our RV antifreeze, and pump that in after we have drained our two low point drains down here at the bottom of our console here. We would drain that water out first, blow the water out, then pump our antifreeze into our system after shutting off our two low point valves. Siphon to sanitize the tank would be this combination right here. Very similar to winterization, but we would have a mixture of water and bleach. We would hook a hose up to this, put it in that mixture, and kick our pump on, and that's going to go ahead and put that into our fresh tank in order to sanitize that system. Now our onboard fresh tank storage can be drained. We're going to have a valve in that underbelly. You want to keep in mind that this does add extra weight to your camper, so if you don't need it, don't take it. And we don't want to leave that water in there for too long because it will become stagnant, so we'll need to just drain it out when not in use. You're also going to have to the right here this black connection. This is your black tank flush for your sewage. We'll go over the operation of that when we get to our dump station. We can see down below our control center our valves for our black tank and our two gray tanks. We'll talk more about that whenever we get to our dump stations. Moving right behind our compartment, we have our Furrion furnace right here and our Furrion tankless water heater, both powered by 12 volts, both needing propane in order to heat. We have our other black tank flush because we'll have two black tanks on this unit. We'll talk about our water heater and our furnace operation when we get to the inside to those controls. Just below our J-Wrap, we have our dump station right here for our gray and black tanks. The difference between our gray and black is gray is going to be shower and sink water, mainly just water, maybe a little bit of solids from our sink and our kitchen, but ultimately it's just water. We can have our hose hooked up as long as we have our port there at the campsite and leave those gray tanks open all the time and let them drain out so we don't have to worry about keep coming out here emptying out, because of course that's going to fill up fairly quickly from showers. Our black tank, however, it needs to stay closed until we are ready to dump. Reason being is we're putting solids in there from our sewage down our toilet, right? So we want those solids not to dry up in that system, toilet paper, all that stuff. We want to make sure that stays proper. So when we are ready to dump, we open that valve, we have our hose hooked up, of course, let everything drain out. In that process, we hook to our black tank flush there in our control center, turn that water hose on. It's going to send water to a jet port on the back side of our tank, help flush it out and push everything down our toilet, down our tank out to our open valve right here into the dump. Now when we are satisfied with that, we turn off our black tank flush, close our black tank valve, go to our toilet, hold the pedal down, and put several gallons of fresh, clean water in there along with our chemicals. Now we do that because that water will slosh around, kind of clean our tank a little bit in the process while we're traveling down the road, but we can also make sure that none of the solids that are left in there are actually, none of the little small pieces of solids left in there are drying up on our tank or our sensors or anything. The chemicals will help degrade that and keep it smelling nice. Now that is how the manufacturer is going to tell you to do it. There are some pro tips we have on our HAPS Helpful Hacks section under black tank flush. Go check that out. Our slide out here is a rack and pinion slide. Same thing on the other side, means it's electric. The motor and everything is under our underbelly. You can't see it, The override is a little hole in our J-wrap. We'll show you in a little bit. We stick our crank handle in there and we can manually crank that slide in the event that we have a failure of the motor. On our slide out here, we have our vent up top that is over our range hood. It does have a couple tabs on it. We can close whenever we store our unit, keep any insects from building a nest in there, want it open whenever we actually use that vent fan. This hole in the J-wrap right here will have the same thing on the other side for this slide out. This hole is for the slide out on the other side. We can put it in there, put it on that little rod sticking out of the frame and manually crank that slide out in. Down below that slide out by our rear jack, we can see that white handle. That's going to lead to our valve for our fresh tank, so we can dump that out, lower the weight on our unit, and of course we want to dump it to make sure we don't have water in there getting stagnant if we're not using it. Our rear jack right here does have that plug on the bottom, just like our front ones, to override it with that 3/8 socket drill. And then last thing you'll see is a quick connect for our LP system that leads to our range on the inside. They put that quick connect, that way if the slide ever has to be removed, it can go ahead and just be disconnected quite easily there. On the rear of our unit, we are pre-wired for that Furrion backup camera system. That'll be powered by our running lights. When we turn them on our towing vehicle, it will power up all of our lights as well as that camera. We can upgrade, add that camera on there so we can see behind us while we're driving or while we're backing up. On here, we're also going to have our receiver hitch along with our tow hook places for our chains and our 4-way plug for our lights to a trailer behind us, and we have our 50 amp twist lock power cord. Now, this power cord needs to be plugged into the camper first. Turn it in, turn it to the right, lock it in, put that little retainer ring on there, keep kids from accidentally pulling it out. Want to plug it in here first to reduce arcing on this plug. Then we go ahead and plug it into our shore power at the pole. We also want to make sure that our ACs are turned off so we don't have any surges to those appliances as well. We have our factory supplied ladder here, very important because we need to gain access to our roof. Why? Well, we need to check the ceiling around all of our vents. We also need to check the ceiling around our trims, our lights, our windows, all that stuff every 60 to 90 days. Says so in your owner's manual. It is considered customer maintenance, just like changing oil in your car. You want to make sure you do this. Probably the #1 most neglected thing when it comes to campers. Even if your unit is under a cover, you still need to check the sealants on there to make sure there's no availability for water to intrude into your camper. Looking for cracking, peeling, deterioration, we want to clean it, reseal over it. If we don't do that, manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of repair. On our roof, we need to make sure we clean that rubber at least twice a year. We also want to check after trips to make sure no low-lying tree limbs have poked any holes or damaged our rubber. We'll notice in the back corner of the passenger side, we have a hole in the J-wrap here. This one is for our spare tire. Same thing, you put that crank handle in there on that rod sticking out, and we can go ahead and crank and drop that tire down. So in our front compartment on the passenger side, very first one, LP tank, just like the other side, we have our pass-through bay. We do have the Lippert tire link system on here, already on. The monitor is there, the sensors are on the tires so you can monitor the tire pressure on your tires while you're traveling. We have cable and satellite access for our outdoor TV as well as the GFCI protected outlet. We also have a port right here for that blue coiled hose, and we also have our GFCI protected outlet right there. We're talking about GFCI protected outlets. That's going to be in all your wet locations, multiple places on the interior of your unit. We'll talk a little more on that when we get to the inside by the breaker panel. We'll notice the override for that driver's side slide is right there next to our steps. There's the hole to be able to put our crank handle in. So our entry door does have a latch here at the bottom. We want to make sure we latch that, keep our door from swinging open and closed. And we need to make sure that it's open all the way when we lift these solid steps up and down. Really easy to operate, just lift them up. You'll have a shock assist there on the inside. Let it glide in and touch our frame and we're ready to go. Reason we want our door all the way open is so these brackets don't tear up our screen there. To drop them down, we just give it a pull and drop them down. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind after we level our unit is we need to come over here and level our steps. Really easy to do. We have these silver tabs right here on each side, and when we push them in, these legs will actually come in and out. So we put our steps in the down position and we can adjust our legs to get a nice level set of steps. We do this so we have a good even threshold right here so our door can close. and not have any gaps into it. It'll close properly, and also we want to make sure that we don't have any contact with the frame of our steps with the bottom frame of our door when we open and close it as well. Last thing to go over before we go inside is our awnings. We have one here, one on our slide out, and we want to make sure that we tilt our awning either to the rear or to the front whenever we put it out. Reason being is we don't want water to accumulate on that awning and have a sudden collapse or anything like that. It is mainly a sunshade. We keep it out for a little light rain, stuff like that, but we may also have some AC condensation, dew, and stuff like that accumulate on that roof. So in order to do that real easy, we'll find this pinch point right here. We grab a hold of that handle, we pull it down, and now our awning is tilted towards the rear, and that water can drain out. Once again, the arms are the same on both awning arms, the front and the rear, and the same on our slide out awning. To put it back, simply push up and we can roll our awning in. Now we get high winds, bad thunderstorm, leave our camper for an extended period of time. It's a great suggestion to go ahead and roll that awning in so you don't end up with an insurance claim having to repair it. So make sure we go ahead and take that advice. And we also just want to make sure that we are carrying and cleaning our awning on a regular basis. 12 volt operated, 12 volt awning lights. We'll show you where that 12 volt fuse panel is when we get inside. As we walk in the door, we open up that cabinet. We have our inverter prep right here. We talked about the wiring in that front compartment. We can go ahead and get our controller and put it in here too. Below that, we have our control center. This is a Compass Connect app you can download. Use your Bluetooth on here to connect to your phone and operate some of the functions and check your meters on your phone. Now here we'll have our meters up here for our black and gray tanks, as well as our freshwater and our battery system. All of our controls for our lights, and then down below it we have our awning and porch lights. Our generator, if we went ahead and put one in there, we could start there. Our water pump to pull out of that fresh tank system, 12 volts, we kick that on, and that will pull that water out. Now if we have a city water connection, we don't need to have that on, so just leave that off. If we are using it dry camping, we want to know that this is an on-demand pump. So when we turn our water on, we will hear that pump running more than likely. Whenever we turn our water off, it'll shut off within a few seconds because it's priming our system. Now, if you hear that pump running and you're sure all your faucets are off, go turn this off. It may mean your tank is empty or you have a leak in your system. You want to turn it off and go investigate. Our tank heaters are 12 volt mats on our tanks. In extreme cold weather, want to kick that on, it'll heat the tanks. It'll prevent them from freezing up. We have our front and rear awnings, we have our slide outs. All of this stuff is 12 volt powered. We'll show you where that 12 volt fuse panel is next. We can go to in the event that we have any issues. Now above that in our cabinet door, we have our 110 breakers that have our 2 GFCI controlled outlets. That's going to cover all of those GFCI controlled outlets on those 2 breakers. We have our test button if we want to test it out. In the event that these trip, then we come over here and reset it, of course, but they usually trip because we have too many components plugged in, 110 heating element stuff, griddles, blow dryers, coffee makers, anything like that. That'll trip these from over amperage, but it can also happen if those outlets are wet. So if it keeps tripping after you reset it, it just trips again, then want to go unplug some of those items and want to check and make sure those outlets aren't wet. Down at the bottom below our steps, we have our 12 volt fuse panel right here. And they're all fuses, all labeled just like our breaker panel, so we know what it operates. It's the first place we want to go when it comes to troubleshooting for those components. Over to the side below our control panel, we have our Coleman Mach thermostat right there for our rear AC. It will provide heat and AC. The heat will come out of our floor vents, AC out of the cool air will come out of our AC vents up top. We'll go over the operation of that now. All right, this is our thermostat for our AC system. When we click that button once, it'll give us the option for mode. Our first mode is cool. We hit that button again, and then we can choose between high or low auto or high and low all the time. So high and low all the time will keep that fan running constantly, even though that compressor is not on. Auto will shut that fan off whenever our compressor is turned off. Once we go ahead and initiate those 2 items, our AC will kick on and we can choose our desired temperature by turning that knob right there. And the larger number on that screen is going to be our room temperature. So here we're set at 63 and our actual temperature is 83. Cool on is going to show you that that system is initiating and that system will kick on. Our next option on there, if we hit that button twice again, is heat. When we go ahead and click it right there, it will bring on the heat. show our room temperature as well as our set to temperature. Our heat is only going to come out of the lower areas. It's not going to come out of that rooftop AC. If you have air blowing out of that rooftop area, then we want to make sure that we don't have the fan on high or low on that cool option. So we would go back to our cool and we would check right here and make sure it's on auto. Our last option on here is cool and heat. In this case, we can go ahead and do the same thing, choose our fan options, just have a set temp in between the furnace and the AC. It will keep that temperature set at that 72-degree mark. Now, in order to turn that system completely off, click it twice again and we can go to off. In our kitchen, we have our Norcold 12-volt residential size refrigerator. We'll go over the operation of that right now. All right, so once again, 12-volt powered. It's going to pull off of our battery or converter system. We want to go to our 12-volt fuse panel if we have any issues with the power on here. It's pretty much all the diagnostics that you can really dig into on a unit like this. For now, we're going to go over how our controls work up top. All right, so just running through them, we have our power. Our plus and minus is going to control our temperature. This bottom tray right here we can see is blacked out. That is going to control our freezer temperature. If we push this one, that is going to control our double door refrigerator temperature. And then of course we have our night mode. So we'll go over the operation. To turn it off and on, we just hold our finger over that power button for a few seconds. It'll shut it off, and then we kick it back on. Same way, just hold that button down. Now, if we want to change our temperatures, of course, we need to select which box we're going to use. So this one's a freezer. We just hit that plus and minus, and we can adjust our temperature, 1 being cold and 5 being coldest. Same thing for our refrigerator option there. Now, our night mode is to conserve energy. It is assuming that you're not going to go in and out of your unit, and it has that option because it is a 12-volt fridge. So if we're boondocking, want to conserve our energy, kick that on, our compressor is going to run a little more efficiently. Now, we don't want to go in and out of our refrigerator because once again, it's going to work more efficiently, so that means it's not going to cool down as much in there. So just keep that in mind when we use it. So very important things to note on our refrigerator is when we shut our system off, we need to defrost our freezer and wipe down our refrigerator. We're going to have some condensation in there. Go ahead and leave them open and cracked and let everything air out and dry out. If we don't do that, that water, ice, anything we left in there can melt, drip out, damage our wood components around our refrigerator. The manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of repair, so make sure we're defrosting and taking care of that fridge properly. We're also reducing opportunity for mold and mildew in that refrigerator as well. Over to the side, we have our hood range vent built into our microwave, 110 microwave. We hit that vent on and it will ventilate the air out as long as we have that vent on the outside open. Down below that, we have our residential style Furrion stovetop, 3-burner stove, propane. We'll have to have our propane tanks on. We pick our designated burner, turn it to high, push that knob down, and it will eventually light. Now, one thing about our propane system is that they are likely to get air in the system. This can happen because we either stored our unit with our propane tanks closed, which is suggested and very common. It's okay. Whenever you go to turn them on, you're going to end up with air in your system. Also can happen if we ran out of gas as well. So to fix that issue, we just come over here and we light our stovetop. Turn our propane tanks on, pull it out of storage, or after we just change that tank, light stovetop, let it run for 30 to 60 seconds. I suggest doing that before operating things like your water heater or your furnace, and it will keep those things from going into a fault due to air in the lines. Down below that, you have your oven. Same thing, we turn it to that flame icon, we push the knob down, and that oven will light up. Once that pilot lights, we go ahead and turn to our temperature knob after about 15 seconds, and then that burner tube should light up. Our kitchen sink, we do have a little waterfall option right here, controlled by our knob here and our knob here. We can go control our temperature there on the side. We can go ahead and shut the flow off with this knob, and then if we want our faucet up here, turn it to the right and your faucet here will begin to work. Now, we also have our glass cleaning option right here. We put our glass on there and that system will spray out and clean your glass cups. In our living room area, we have our main TV, our Rockford Fosgate radio system controlling our speakers outside and in. And in this cabinet next to it, we have our satellite, auxiliary, and TV coax right here that leads to that main TV. Now on here, we're also going to have a little button that turns a light off and on. That is our antenna boost. We use our antenna when we're scanning for channels. We don't have cable at the campground. We're scanning for those local channels on the antenna. It's important we have that light on meaning our antenna boost is on, so it'll help pick up more channels in the area. When we scan for cable channels, however, we need to turn that light off so it doesn't scramble the channels coming from the campground. Down below that, we have our 110 fireplace if we want electric heat. We'll go over a little operation on that right now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these two buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time, and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. Our sofa here in the rear will fold out into a bed. Down at the side of it, we'll see our COLP detector. We'll have a little green light on there indicating it is powered up. It'll be hardwired into our battery system, and it'll be on all the time. It'll indicate if there's any high volumes of LP or CO, letting us know there's a leak and we need to evacuate our unit. We need to check the audible alarm on there before we go camping to make sure that it's working. Of course, make sure it's powered up. It's also going to have an expiration date on the front or the back of it. We need to change it out when that time comes. We're going to have smoke detectors in the roof, just like at your house, powered by a 9-volt battery. Check the audible alarm on that. Make sure we're changing those batteries out on a regular basis. Here in our other slide out, we do have our dinette booth as well as our recliners, electric, push of a button, open and close those, along with USB ports right there for charging. Our bathroom, pretty cut and dry. We do have glass doors. We have that travel latch right there. We want to go ahead and latch when we're traveling, keep that glass from breaking. Our hot and cold for our faucets right here for our shower. We will notice an on-off button on here. That on-off button is on that shower head, can generally be used when you're dry camping. You're trying to conserve the amount of water you're putting into your gray tank, the amount of water you're using out of your fresh tank. So in between showering, rinsing off and lathering up, you can just hit that button off and on right there. You won't have to worry about trying to find the sweet spot for your hot cold. Now if you have city water or a dump station, you don't have to use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't need to use it. We're also going to have a vent in here for our shower. I want to go ahead and ventilate whenever we are using that. That way it'll reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew in here and get rid of humidity. We have our toilet right here. Functions pretty easily. Just hit that pedal and flush it down. Only a few things we're putting in that toilet. Our sewage, of course, number 1 and number 2, liquids and solids, and then RV toilet paper only. Degrades properly in that tank, and then we also have our chemicals that help degrade everything in there. Now for our toilet, number 1, it's just liquids. Hit that pedal, flush it down the drain. If it's number 2, solids, we want to barely push that pedal down, have water start coming out, and fill that bowl up about half to 3/4 of the way, so we have enough water to flush those solids down the drain all the way into our black tank. Last thing in here is our Furrion water heaters controller. We're going to go over the operation of that right now. In our bathroom, we'll see our Furrion tankless control center. Pretty simple. We have our power on, off and on, kick it on. That's going to be our set point for our water. We can change that by hitting our up and down buttons right there. Our indicators right here, power, Fahrenheit, Celsius. If we want to change one or the other, we hit that bottom right button, and flame. Flame is only going to kick on whenever we turn that hot water on, indicating that system is working. And once again, on demand, it'll only come on whenever we have that hot water on. Finally, in our bedroom, we have a second AC system with a thermostat that's going to work just like the front one, except it's not going to have heat on it, just AC, and it'll control just this AC. The one in the rear will control our living room air. Now in here, we also have our ceiling assembly. You're going to have the same thing on the rear. One thing we need to note is we do have filters on here on each side. Pull those tabs, drop them down, clean the filters so we're not restricting air up into that AC. We're also going to have these 2 vents on each side. We can go ahead and open or close them. If we want to cool this area down quickly, we go ahead and open them up. That's called our quick dump. Forces air just into here. If we want our air to circulate through the unit and go through our ceiling vents right here, we need to make sure that they are closed. Lastly, we have our TV along with that satellite cable and antenna coax port right up there as well. That wraps up everything on our influence.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us. And keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.